Hey Liz,
Hey, Olu.
would you know a place to dump a $400 million plane that you no longer need?
Yes, actually, I do. You can give it to our president because that's what Qatar just did. He accepts hand-me-downs.
Yep, apparently Mar-a-Lago is a junkyard for big ass planes.
Definitely, definitely one way of describing it. So, thank you for joining us this week. Unlike our intro, our first topic is not actually going to be the plane from Qatar, although we will get to that. Our first topic is going to be Trump's immigration crackdown. So, if you've been paying attention, and hopefully you have if you're listening to this podcast, but if you've been paying attention, it feels like America is turning into this weird police state, especially if you're an immigrant. There have been multiple reports of people being disappeared off the street. We had scenes in places like Worcester, Massachusetts, where an entire neighborhood watched as the police and DHS together harassed a family to deport a mother, leaving her teenage daughter and little baby alone. You know, we've seen stories of DHS showing up at people's immigration appointments where they're trying to go through the legal immigration process and picking up those people at their appointments. It just seems to me like lately Trump's immigration crackdown has not been coming for, quote, criminals. It's been coming for every immigrant, and some of whom are here legally.
Exactly, that's the diabolical part. Some of these people were actually told to show up for a legal process that they are currently undergoing legally, and ICE is not letting those cases be adjudicated legally. They're just disappearing them at the appointments where they think that they're there to do the right thing. And it just exposes this lie that we're going after illegal immigration. They're just anti-immigrant, period. And they're actually trying to stop anybody from becoming a legal immigrant.
Yeah, and one of the most popular cases right now is the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who has been in El Salvador in prison for weeks since he was picked up in Maryland and sent there. There's so many stories from so many different angles, like Kilmar Garcia, who multiple judges have told the Trump administration should be brought home back to the US. But the Trump administration keeps coming up with excuses. They even had a hearing on Friday about this with another district judge explaining to them again why they need to facilitate his return, and the Department of State saying that if they shared information about his case, it would be violating national security. You know, they're coming with all sorts of things. But that's not the only sort of immigration issue. You have the stories of people who were protesting against what's happening in Gaza, and those people who were on student visas having their visas revoked and being picked up off the street. You have stories about people who are being detained when they're at the airport trying to travel somewhere and having their phones confiscated. You have people who are trying to cross the Canadian border getting checked at Border Patrol checkpoints before the Canadian border. You know, because usually when you're leaving the country to enter Canada by road, you cross Canadian Border Patrol and then you're in Canada. But now there's a US Border Patrol check before you get to the Canadian Border Patrol. These are just many, many ways that Trump's DHS is acting out of the ordinary and not doing things the way we're all used to. And who is at the head of all this? Kristi Noem. What was she called? Deportation Barbie, I think is the name people are calling her online.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny how every member of Trump's cabinet, they clearly don't even care about their legacy or like making any stamp on history. They're all just grifting for their next meme coin or their next big TV appearance. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't even seem to know what's going on in her own department, right? She was recently in a hearing, refused to answer any questions or say she didn't know. She couldn't confirm whether or not police were involved in some of the literal abductions that we have seen on the streets. She couldn't confirm whether this was just a DHS or ICE operation. And one congresswoman actually asked her if there are any non-actual police officers or non-actual armed forces on these raids, because apparently a lot of these ICE agent vests and DHS vests can be found on Etsy for $40. And so, anybody can show up in these vests, or anybody can be deputized apparently by the DHS to come in this vest and terrorize people on the streets. And she didn't seem to know that that was a risk as well, which is hilarious because they're claiming that there's a national security risk with these immigrants, but they don't understand that there's a big homeland security risk if anybody can put on vests saying that they're ICE. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise there, right? One of the least qualified people in Trump's cabinet is fucking up her job, right? That's par for the course at this point. Like, what department is being run efficiently? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm struggling to think of one. But yeah. Kristi Noem, though, aside, it's really hard to wrap your head around the way Trump's immigration crackdown has been going, because there's so many angles to it. Did you hear about the judge that was in Wisconsin and is facing charges because they said that she was trying to help an illegal immigrant escape, and so like the government is going after her? Or the mayor of Newark, who was detained outside while he was protesting, ICE and DHS. Like, it's just, there are so many ways this is such a ridiculous and concerning thing, right? It's like you can approach it from the immigration angle of how immigrants are being dealt with. You can approach it from the lack of due process angle of how people are being deported with no chance to explain themselves or defend themselves or explain their case. You have the angle of judges and mayors being arrested. You have the angle of Americans being afraid to fly back into the country because DHS might confiscate their phones at the airport. There's just so many things being done in the name of Trump's immigration crackdown, all of which should be concerning to everyone who's paying attention.
Absolutely. And they are not afraid to punish or arrest actual citizens who get in their way, right? Like you mentioned, the judge in Wisconsin. All she did was say, this person is going through a legal process in my courthouse while this person is in here. You cannot arrest them. Like, I mean, do your fucking job and do your legwork, right? How lazy are you that you have to wait for the person to come to a courthouse? Like, you can arrest them literally anywhere else aside from the courthouse, right?
Yeah.
But that's all she asked for. I mean, not everybody expects this case to be dismissed or that she'll be found innocent. So, they're just doing it. And they know this. They're just trying to intimidate people. Same for Mayor Baraka. They know that he was not trespassing. Being in front of a public building, a taxpayer-funded building, is not trespassing. He was simply protesting. So the idea that he was doing something illegal is also just simply ridiculous. And that's also going to be thrown out, right? I mean, even if the case had merit, the prosecutor is Alina Baba or whatever, I want to call her Ali Baba, whatever her name is. She's out there prosecuting it. And as we know, she's done a very poor job. She could never get Trump out of his many corruption cases, his many fraud cases, his many SA cases and sexual harassment cases. So again, none of these cases are going anywhere, but the point is to intimidate people, and it's to make everybody scared of speaking up. And similarly, they're taking that even all the way to just people who are podcasting, talking about it, right? You've heard that they tried to intimidate a podcaster, Hassan Piker.
Yep. When he was coming back from a trip, he was detained at the airport.
Yeah, this is an American citizen, I mean, I wonder, would they detain him if his name was not Hassan, because as far as I know, there are many podcasters with simple names like Joe who have also commented
on what's going on in the Middle East.
On what's going on in the Middle East. So why are you picking on this person? I mean, we're just in a blatantly racist administration. Just the underlying ideology behind everything is fascism. And once you understand that, specifically like white nationalist fascism, and once you understand that things like importing white immigrants from South Africa into the US makes complete sense.
Yeah, let's talk about the Afrikaner farmers today not today, but the Afrikaner farmers who were invited, let's say, at Trump's request to the US. He said there's a white genocide happening in South Africa. Nobody else thinks that except him and Elon Musk. And I guess these quote unquote victims of the genocide. But I don't know if you saw the video of the guy, one of the Afrikaner people, who was being interviewed after I think it was on BBC, he was being interviewed. And he said, I had to leave my house, I had to leave my cars, I had to leave my dog, I had to leave my mother in South Africa and come here because I just thought I needed a better life. And I was like, wow, look at all the stuff he had to leave behind. That's definitely the kind of thing you would have if a genocide was happening. A house, a car, a dog. There are Americans that don't have all these things. And he was so downtrodden by what was going on in his country, all the white genocide happening, that he had to flee. And it made me really wonder, what is the difference between this person from South Africa who says his life is in danger, and the people, for example, from Afghanistan who's actually helped America and the American military while they were in Afghanistan, and now are seeing their asylum status revoked at Trump's request. Trump wants to send back the people who helped America in Afghanistan. He doesn't want to accept refugees from Gaza, from the Middle East, or other countries where there are like real dangerous things going on. But somehow these white South Africans received basically a hero's welcome when they arrived. Press briefing, free, their cases were prioritized. They were actually gone through the asylum process technically and are now like residents of the US. So they got fast tracked, but people from other countries, we're not even going to hear their case. What's the difference? What do we think is the difference?
I mean, the difference is that, is it the Simpsons meme with the color palette?
It's Family Guy.
It's Family Guy.
It's Family Guy.
Family Guy.
Get your cartoons straight.
I'm sorry, I clearly don't watch any of these things. But it's the meme, with the color palette, right? Because to be clear, there is no genocide in South Africa. I mean, that's just not happening, right? And there is no race war. There is nothing pushing out white farmers. Nobody is asking them to give up anything. Nobody is taking their land. Nobody's doing any of that, right? Meanwhile, there is actually a war going on in Haiti, for example, but we're not granting those people special immigration status anymore.
That's true.
And if anything, we're taking away the special immigration status that was granted to them, right? There's just so much strife in the rest of the world, Afghanistan, Syria, so many other places where there's an actual war. Ukraine, exactly. Where there's actual famine, where there's actual war. We're not giving those people, a special refugee status, but we're finding these people who are leading very, very comfortable lives. Apparently, like, white South Afrikaners own something like 80% of the land in that country due to the history of apartheid, right? And like, they're not under any laws or, any duress to actually give that up. So
they're not.
What are they running away from? Aside from a perception, it's a white paranoia. This is
it's giving snowflake, quite honestly. That's what I heard. It's giving snowflake.
And it just really taps into the sort of victimhood status. Like, it's such a problem for, people like Trump and Elon Musk and MAGA, where like they have to look so hard for like white prosecution, and then they go all the way to South Africa for the like wealthiest of the wealthiest in South Africa and claim that those are the people who are being prosecuted. Like, that's how hard they had to look, and the only people they could find were the people who still own all of South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, that's really key, right? If you are familiar with that country at all, you know that there's a very, 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 very long history between the Boers, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Boer, I don't know. The Afrikaner farming community, the white people that we're talking about, and the rest of the country. And this is to clarify, like, not every white African person in South Africa is a Boer, is one of these people. But the people we're discussing, this specific group of white people in South Africa, have expressed white supremacist ideals. They are trying to start their own towns that are white only in the middle of an African country. And they are always shocked when that is met with resistance from the rest of the country. So this year, one of the things that prompted them to complain even louder was that a judge in South Africa said there was no real genocide when a wealthy person, and a wealthy Boer person or Afrikaner person, was trying to donate his wealth to a white supremacist group. And they were trying to prevent that donation from going because, they're not trying to fund basically a terrorist group in South Africa. And so that's the kind of, that's what they mean when they say they're under attack. Oh, this judge wouldn't let you donate your inheritance to a white supremacist group. You're under attack. Now you need to flee to, where are they going, Alabama or something? It's laughable that this is even a discussion point. It's also really sad and lame to me that America is being involved in this issue. This is such a specific South African problem to be resolved in South Africa by South Africans, and they should decide how they want to handle this white supremacist group. Why are we granting asylum to these people? Why are we granting asylum to them? I know part of it is because Elon Musk is Trump's best friend and probably got in his ear about it from January onwards to be like, you got to help my people, because this is where Elon comes from. These are his people. But strategically, politically, as a country, how is this good for us to be on the side of basically the racists? How is this helping us as a country and our standing in the world? I don't see how this is helpful.
It isn't. The most telling part of this administration is that around the world, every scumbag, every douchebag of any kind you can think of, rapists, fraudsters, racists, terrorists, all of them are coming to America to seek protection or approval from Trump, which just shows you the kind of person he is. Trump has had people like Conor McGregor come see him. That's somebody who's been credibly accused of rape. He's had people even Sean Combs, for example. Apparently his friends are trying to seek a Trump pardon. It seems like...
For Diddy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just FYI, that is Diddy. If you didn't know, Sean Combs is Diddy. We're just old millennials, just FYI.
We're just... Oh, yeah, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever his name is. But yes. He's in the courts, so his name is Sean Combs for court purposes. But the thing is, all of the German fascist groups, all of the British nationalist groups, whatever country it is, whoever the worst people in that country is, they find Trump. Transphobes in Ireland, the Burke family, they all come eventually to Trump. Whatever, the worst of any society anywhere in the world, they all come around to pay homage to Trump because they literally see him as their guiding light, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, America has really fallen off, I also want to talk about one other angle with this immigration thing, which is going to be like, I guess, the last thing we talk about on this, which is the reports that came out this week, which at first I thought were a joke. So I'm going to give you the backstory. I saw someone post an article from the Daily Mail that said that they were going to have a reality show where the Department of Homeland Security is considering a pitch for a reality show where immigrants compete against one another for U.S. citizenship. And I thought to myself, that's the Daily Mail. You know, they say a bunch of shit. And sometimes, you know, they make shit up at the Daily Mail. So I was just like, whatever. Nobody would think this is a good idea. And then it went to more reputable news sites like the Washington Post, like the New York Times, and DHS spokespeople confirming that they received a pitch that they are, quote, considering. And I thought to myself, holy shit. We are in the Hunger Games, everyone. Like, that's it. We're in the Hunger Games. I don't know what district you're in. If you haven't seen the Hunger Games, there's, 12 districts. District 1 and 2 are the wealthiest ones. The kids in the Hunger Games compete for the entertainment of District 1 and 2 and the punishment of the other districts. It is insane to me that this is where we are as a society. We got Trump hanging out with everyone's, worst version of their country people. And now we're going to have an entertainment show for people to fight for citizenship. Not fight, but you know what I mean. People to compete for citizenship. How is this real? How is this real? How did we get here?
I don't even know what to say, because you have to laugh so that you don't cry, right? This is part of the shitification and the cheapification of the White House and everything we know about the American government, right? Like, the credentials for the person who is pitching this show includes Duck Dynasty and Dating While Naked. The idea that actual federal government, actual high-level people in the White House and in the DHS are sitting down with somebody like that to discuss, making human beings jump through hoops just to prove their worth.
And for entertainment purposes. That's
Exactly.
crazy.
And for entertainment purposes, that's crazy, right? And these are the people who claim to be patriots, and the idea that you will sell American citizenship for the highest views, the highest ratings. I mean, how can you be a patriot? How can you claim to care about the flag and this does not deeply offend you in some way?
Fun fact, the producer is Canadian. The person who's pitching this is Canadian. So I guess no surprise there that he's trying to destroy us. That's why Trump wants to make them the 51st state. I'm being facetious, but really, the thing that's annoying me, a producer can pitch whatever the fuck he wants, right? Canadian guy comes in, zero context for the difficulties of becoming an American citizen and what it actually means, blah, blah, blah. He pitches the show. Immediately should be shut down, right? That's the problem I have. It's not that someone pitched this idea. People will pitch whatever the fuck you let them pitch. You don't have to consider it. It's the fact that this is even being discussed as a potential plan is crazy to me. And I think I know what's driving it, right? Because one of the things that is happening, the DHS under Kristi Noem is exceeding their budget. That's a problem, right? They have all these massive plans to deport millions of people. You cannot do that on the current DHS budget. It's just not realistic. And that's part of why that even though immigration has been making a lot of news and making a lot of big splashes for the ineptitude and the people they're trying to get rid of, they actually have not deported that many people. And that is because they're running out of money, because they don't have realistic plans. And I could see how they consider a show like this as a potential revenue source, a potential way to bolster their budget so they can continue doing all the weird, random, dumb, evil shit that they're doing. However, who is going to pay for this? How does this get sponsors? Do you think Target is going to want to run an ad on this show? Do you think Walmart is going to run it? Like, who are the advertisers for this show? Who's the audience for this show? What channel, what streaming service is going to sign on for this? There are so many like realistic, non-emotional based, non-ethical based questions you should have about a show like this. It should, if you don't want to disagree with this, if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, listen, oh, you guys are too emotional. It's just another way of getting citizenship, just like applying and going through the immigration process. Fine. But logistically and realistically, who is this for? Who is going to pay for this? Who is going to advertise on this? How does it make any sense, even if you approach it from a purely like logical standpoint?
I mean, if they show the truth of it, they would just show a very boring, grueling process involving lots of documentation. Like, how are they going to make that how are they going to make that interesting or worth watching? I don't know. This is the point, right? And as you said, what is the audience for this? I don't know. Fox News, OAN. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they can, they can put this up somewhere. There's gonna be some, audience for it. But like,
it's not going to make that much money. Just ask Tesla about pivoting to conservatives and how that went for them as a business. There's not enough people in that audience to justify the expense, and they're not going to make that much money.
Well, I mean, I don't think that these people have thought about it very far, and I'm not sure that they really care about the money. I think they probably just care about showing off suffering. I mean, these are the people who release videos of brown men shackled in the hands and neck like slaves. So like the cruelty, the display of the cruelty is the point.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see if this becomes a thing. I know that if it does, I won't be watching. Like, that's so clear to me. And hopefully you're not either. And seriously, if you don't believe us, look this up. They really are considering this a reality show where you can compete for citizenship. That's yeah, like maybe it's like MTV's The Challenge or something. You like go through a bunch of physical and mental exercises, and at the end you prove that you should be an American. Who knows? Let's move on to the topic we started the show with in our intro, which was the plane that Trump received as a gift. I have so much amusement at the conservative response to this story. Obviously, just like everything else Trump does, there's always a tweet, there's always a post. A few years ago, he was saying, you can't accept money from whoever. And now he wants to accept a $400 million plane. Surprise, surprise.
I mean, who could have seen that come in, right? Like, one of the things that Trump, who claims to be a patriot, does is diss everything about the White House, diss everything about the Air Force One. Like, in his mind, none of the things that we actually hold dear as like part of our institutions are up to par because they're not gold plated and there's not like gold leaf everywhere. So from his perspective, he wants a giant plane from Qatar that he knows is going to be as tacky as he wants it to be. That's really all that it is. I feel like people are doing too much analysis on this stuff. And he just wants a gold toilet in his plane. That's literally all he wants.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the details of the gift. So Qatar, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because I know there's discussion over how to pronounce the country, but they gave our president a $400 million Boeing 747 to use as the new Air Force One. And then the plan is that 747 would be after Trump leaves office, because, after you leave office, you can't still keep flying Air Force One. You're not president. So I guess first bit of good news, he does plan to leave. I think people really glossed over that when they were covering the story.
Oh, wow. I just realized that when you just said it, actually.
Yes. So I think we can all, I think that's a big takeaway we should all have. First of all, he is planning to leave at some point. So hashtag blessed. But the plan then with the plane is that after he's done using it as Air Force One, the 747 will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library, which again, that's an oxymoron if I ever heard one. This man does not read. But the Trump Presidential Library will take over the plane. And if the plane is owned by the Trump Presidential Library, I mean, I think it goes without saying that he would still be using it. I don't even think that would be a debate. Although he said he wouldn't, so I guess.
And we can always trust that man's word.
Exactly. But that sounds insane. The value of the gift is insane. $400 million plane. We all found out this week that the plane is also a used plane. So it's a hand-me-down Boeing 747 that Qatar has had for a few years. Nobody there really wanted it and they didn't know what to do with it. But now they have found someone to re-gift it to. So good for them. And our president, who I guess has never heard of the emoluments clause, is accepting the gift. And then his DOJ, Pam Bondi, and his people are like bending themselves backwards to say this is totally fine and acceptable. I don't know if you saw the comparison to the Statue of Liberty. Did you see those posts?
Well, yeah, and somebody said that on one of our lives. And
oh, yeah, that's
completely
true.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, totally forgot about that. Yes, we did have our first TikTok live this week, Olo and I, which was fun. That we hosted instead of participating in other people's lives. And people did, because someone did come up and tell us, like, did we complain about France giving the U.S. the Statue of Liberty? And the fact that the differences between these two things have to even be explained is crazy. But so that's the story with the plane. I guess if you're a thinking American, you see the problem with this, right? You see the problem.
It's just straightforward bribery. But what I find hilarious is the absolute lack of respect for Trump in these bribes that the Middle Eastern countries have been giving him. As you said, this is a hand-me-down plane. It's actually been on the market since 2012.
Yeah.
So for more than 10 years, it's been around. They couldn't essentially find anyone to take it off their hands, so they just literally junkyarding it on him, and he thinks they're doing him like a big honor, right? Like this is like he wants to be chic in some way. He wants to be sheikh in some way, and this is his gateway drug into that.
He wants to be a sheikh, a Middle Eastern
that's literally what he thinks.
That's it. That is what he thinks he is.
He loves, that absolute power stuff, right? So he's definitely tapping into this. But this is the thing, like, so far they've also like brought in a McDonald's mobile truck. They also give him a parade of red cyber trucks. And, like a giant ass plane. If you've ever spoken to a 5-year-old boy, this is literally their wish list. Burgers and fries,
Cybertruck.
Big red trucks, and planes. This is literally how you bribe a 5-year-old.
Sounds like a great birthday party. Television. Sounds like a great birthday party for a bunch of 5-year-olds. Some trucks, some planes, some burgers and fries.
Exactly. And that's literally what his 4-day trip was about. I would read every detail of what they did to welcome him, and I would just laugh to myself because I was like, these people think he's a toddler.
Well, yeah, because he acts like one, right? I mean, did you listen to some of the speeches that he gave? They would be there talking about whatever trade deal or investment in America they were planning on, and he would somehow meander the conversation back to the 2020 election. Or I don't know if you heard the part where he was trying to explain to one of I can't remember what country now, where he was trying to explain what groceries were to people. He was like, we have this word, groceries. These people speak English. They know what groceries are. I'm sure the sheikh has not shot for himself in his whole life, but I'm pretty sure he knows what the word grocery means. Trump is like having these honestly, it's giving dementia, but that's a separate topic.
Yeah, he was talking to the president of the UAE, the United Arab Emirates.
Thank you.
But
Yes.
what I found funny about that was that imagine sitting down beside the presidents of the UAE, the Dubai, right? And coming off as being more out of touch than that person.
I mean, all the jokes, but as someone who has actually been to the UAE, it is a beautiful place, but it is not real. It's a theme park. And for you to be out of touch there is really saying something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but this is you just can't help but laugh and laugh in just derision, not like you're enjoying the laughter, but you're just laughing because you just can't believe that this is real life, that this is happening.
That's the president, y'all.
That's our president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, though, even though I brought up the emoluments clause, the reality I've seen from people who are scholars on this is that he can accept it if Congress doesn't stop him. So that's the issue. It honestly should raise eyebrows, should raise ethical questions. But if Congress lets him do it, then he can do it. Because I hear people saying things like, oh, we have to stop him. And there is nothing, the only people who can stop him from accepting this are Congress if they actually enforce the clause and push him to decline it. But I don't think they will. I don't think this Congress will. They can't even get their budget bills together. So I don't know that they would be able to figure out stopping him from accepting this plane.
Yeah. And just a quick editorial note. We actually mean the Republican Congress, right?
Oh, because yes. We always have to clarify.
We always have to clarify, we fall into the rhetoric of saying the Supreme Court or Congress, but essentially all of our levers of power right now are being controlled by Republicans. So all of this stuff is up to Republicans to stop him from doing. And as Liz has pointed out, they have no backbone. They have no desire to stop him. And so he will probably accept the plane, because one thing Trump likes to do, he telegraphs his crimes before he does them. It's his own excuse. Well, I said I was going to do it. And so he just does it.
He does, and nobody stops him. And that's how he's operated his whole life, basically. That's the sense I get. But let's move on to our final topic, which, is not as exciting as planes from Qatar, but it's about the DNC. And I will say that this week has been interesting. If you're someone who's an observer of the DNC, they've been going through some shit. And I'm not talking about the election. In the last couple of weeks, the DNC has gone through some shit. So David Hogg, who is one of the vice chairs of the DNC, and is really best known, and sadly, for being a school shooting survivor. He initially, I think this really started with when he said that he would start funding primaries of Democrats, not primaries in places that are in districts that are run by Republicans. But right now he said he was going to start funding primary challenges to safely blue districts across the U.S. And after he said that, his intention was, I thought, very mildly received. I actually thought the DNC had been super calm when I heard that. And then like a week later, all of a sudden I hear that he's being ousted from the DNC. And so now there's been
I don't think he's been ousted, though. They're just trying to vote again. It's a procedural thing. They're trying to vote again for vice chair at the DNC because somebody raised an objection based on gender, which is part of the DNC's rules in some way. So
no, I get it. I think it's interesting that they made him vice chair without worrying about the rules. And then after he decides, and I want to say, like, I'm not.
But this doesn't affect just him. This affects everybody.
Oh, I know.
Who is vice chair?
Every vice chair, and I know there are a few of them. I get it. I'm just pointing out the timing is weird. I know. I say this a lot. Correlation doesn't equal causation. I get it. I'm just
Liz,
pointing out.
This is veering into, I'm just asking questions, conspiracy theory.
I'm sorry. I really am just asking questions, though. You see how it looks, though. You see how it looks.
I don't.
What?
I don't.
Okay, come on. You don't see how it looks weird that one day he says he's primarying people, which I want to say I don't even support that plan. I just want to come out. I'm not saying his plan makes any sense. I'm not saying David Hogg is like the solution. I'm just saying if you're an observer and you hear 1 week someone is challenging, quote, the status quo, and then the following week, all of a sudden we're redoing elections, that feels weird. That feels weird. It looks sus, as the kids say.
Oh my God, what are you doing? That's not how logic works.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, what is happening is that there's a procedural issue that was identified long before Hogg brought up his plan to primary incumbents or whatever.
That's what they want you to think. Oh, that's what they want you to
oh
think.
my God, do you have an aluminum foil hat over there? What is happening?
I do. I actually do. Okay, but seriously though, explain to us what's happening, because what I'm reciting here is some of the prevailing logic online. I am not saying this is my opinion. I'm just telling y'all what's being said.
Okay, so the other person I know that is affected here is Malcolm Kenyatta, but I know that there are multiple other vice chairs. They all ran for vice chair, received a certain number of votes. There is a female contender who contends that there's something about the procedural rules, I don't know what it is, that puts female candidates at a disadvantage. So they're trying to do this again as part of a gender equity thing. And everybody who knows how bureaucracies work, it's gonna take weeks and weeks before somebody gets off their ass and actually reviews the complaint and makes a determination. And now they're doing it all over again. And I feel like if David Hogg really believes in his ideas and he believes in the value of his ideas, he would be able to sell it to the people who voted for him the last time, and they were just voting for him again, and he'll become vice chair again. I don't see what the problem is.
I'm telling you what it looks like, and I wanna say.
Oh my God! Please stop saying what it looks like.
I'm telling you what it looks like.
This is stressing me out.
It shouldn't stress you
language.
Out. Let me explain to you why it shouldn't stress you out, because I am old enough to remember 2016 and 2024. And what am I talking about, Olu? I am talking about the fact that there are people who typically vote Democrat or vote left who have problems with the DNC. And I'm here to bring that perspective forward because I hear from these people and I feel like they should be listened to. I don't know if you need to act on what they're saying, but we need to be realistic about what stuff looks like to people. I don't think it helps to bury your head in the sand and pretend logic will win out all the time. What am I talking about when I say 2016? I'm talking about the people who are still 9 years later upset about Bernie Sanders and how the 2016 primaries went. And before you get upset, Olu, we already know how you feel about this. We know how I feel about this. I'm just telling you, those people are still around. The people who in 2024 were upset that Biden stepped down and there was no primary. You have some of those people today now talking about this David Hogg thing as yet another example of the DNC shafting someone. I just want to know, I want people to know, if you're listening, these people are out there, they exist, and they pay attention. And I'm telling you what it looks like to those people because you kind of need them, if we have proven anything. We kind of need some of these people. And not everyone is going to see this in the way you're talking about, where it's like, listen, if he got the votes last time, he can get them again, he can stay in his role. I'm just telling you what it looks like to people.
Okay. I feel like we have a problem of a lot of these people that you're talking about putting forward narcissists who are too egotistical, right? From my perspective, David Hogg has turned a basic procedural error, just some of the most boring secretarial bullshit I have ever heard, into a national scandal. And this is why it is very hard to take these people seriously. Yes, you want change. Yes, you want revolution, right? But there is still a party, and the party has rules and procedures. Like, I'm sorry, the revolution also comes with paper and ink and, boxes that you have to tick, right? Like, you, like, the revolution is not, all like sexy outfits and cool signs. Like, it actually does come with like doing some of the stuff. Like, I mean, if you cannot handle, I'm sorry, if he combusted over a simple procedural issue, how is he actually going to go about like doing the paperwork needed to challenge an incumbent, right? Like, I'm just asking the questions now to use your language, right?
I know, like, you're just asking questions.
Because those comes with procedures as well. Like, you could collect 50,000 signatures, for example, and somebody says, well, these ones are not legible. That was in pencil. You have to go do it again. Like, this is literally how bureaucracies work. And like, you do need those. Otherwise, anybody can show up with like 50,000 signatures from ChatGPT. Like, this is why you need to do it. Right. So like, this is the frustrating part of things. Yeah, you want to change the party. Great. But like, you can't just like go in there like a pig in a china shop. Like, you could just like be stomping around on everything. Like, what are you doing?
Okay. First of all, I think it's bull in a china shop.
Bull in a china shop, horse in a china shop. Just imagine any mammal running amok, a goat in a china shop, just running around making everything like crazy. Because like, you've literally been vice chair for what, 2 to 3 months, and you've gone in there, not made any friends, just making enemies left and right. Like, what are you doing? You do need to sell your ideas. You do need to get allies on your side. And it's like, this is a thing that is going on and on and on. This person has the best ideas. Prove it. Sell it if you have the best ideas.
Okay, hold on. Okay. We got a little loud here, but I understand what you're saying. I just need people to acknowledge the existence of the concerns and, quote, what it looks like, and, quote, just asking questions, because it's real.
And I am here also just asking questions. Guys.
That's a debate.
If this guy can't work with his fellow vice chairs and also work with the people who felt that their voices were tamped down by this vote, by whatever procedural issue was, how is he going to like make coalitions and deals, right? Like, you're not even a majority in the backyard in which you're operating. You need allies. You need to make friends. You need to make coalitions. You're like abrasive and pissing off everybody. You're not going to get anywhere.
Okay, I think the response these people would have is, you are describing a system that has had some significant failures recently, and you want people who are here to help / change to work within a system that has had some significant failures lately. So I guess, where is the introspection on the side of the bureaucracy? Because it's not that you're wrong. I'm not, again, people like David Hogg who are like coming in trying to change things. We need change. I'm not saying we don't, but where is the introspection on the part of the bureaucracy? You're telling this young person who wants to like shake things up to operate within a system that is not successful. So where is the introspection and change coming from on the part of the system?
But this is what I am talking about. I don't think it's actually wrong for the DNC to like want more representation in its vice chairs. There's actually no problem here. This is not a rule or regulation that is egregious in any way. This is a very reasonable rule that somebody like Hogg should also believe in if he is all about equity and equality as he says he is. So what is the problem? What's the problem he has here?
I think, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, the timing is sus.
This timing is not sus.
Okay. Well then the issue is the message is not getting out there that the timing is not sus.
Okay.
Again, that's the issue.
Even if the timing is sus, sus, you've backed me into a corner like every good conspiracy theorist. Even if the timing is sus. He had 200 and something votes the last time. Go get your votes back and also get more of those votes. Okay, like, I do want the Democratic Party to change, okay? But nobody is going to roll over for that change. You do have to go out and prove yourself time and time again. And if you cannot cut your teeth in the DNC, within the Democratic Party, you're not going to survive in purple states. You're not going to survive in Congress, in Senate, where you have to work with Republicans and people who do not even want to hear your voice. People hate your guts. This is inter-family nonsense. If you cannot resolve that, how are you going to work with the other aisle? I don't understand what is the long-term goal here?
I don't know, but I want to call out that the way you said sus was so rude. You were so dismissive of my use of sus. I just want to call that out because that was funny. You're like, sus. Like, ew. Okay. But
I'm
seriously
sorry.
though, I listen, like I said, Olu, you and I usually agree on stuff. I don't disagree that he needs to pitch his ideas. What I think is important for the Democratic Party to pay attention to is the fact that this conversation is even happening in the first place. And given their, quote, track record, it is happening. So this is a problem they need to solve. This is a messaging issue they need to solve. The timing is not sus. You got to get that information out there because it's not getting out there.
Okay, but you could also just turn that on its head, right? It is not a good look for the DNC to have a bunch of vice chairs and none of them are women, or a small minority of them are women. That's just not a good look in this day and age, right?
Sure.
That's another problem that one could say the DNC has. So I don't understand, why Hogg's problem gets to be placed higher over another issue. And I find it deeply offensive.
Because he's doing a better job of getting his message out.
Excuse me. And I find it deeply offensive that people would then suggest that, trying to, do some of the actual values that we believe in, which is actually having all of the voices that we can in a given time in position of power. I don't understand why, it's okay to say that, that's a conspiracy, that's sus. That's just another equally valid issue. We're trying to build a bigger umbrella. That's part of what we say we're about. And this is the problem where, you come in and you're just, running roughshod. And I'm not actually dismissive of, the actual need to change of the Democratic Party. I'm just trying to understand why, the approach has to be this all or nothing situation. This story to me is a non-story. You're just vice chairs of a DNC. There's no primaries coming up yet. There's no election coming up yet. This should have been a Zoom meeting that nobody heard about, and you just voted again. Because this is not even a public vote. This is just within members of the party. Go back to your allies in the party and ask them to vote for you again. That's literally it.
Well, this is what I was trying to say. He's just better at getting the message out, which I think is why he's a vice chair. He has his side out. People aren't hearing the reality or the other side. This is part of the problem the DNC continues to have with messaging. How is he able to get his story out there and the other side is not? That's why he's there, right? He's literally there because he's one of the people they're hoping will bring them, forward into this new age of message dissemination.
And how is it helping his cause for him to use his ability to get the views and the message out to destroy the DNC? This has happened. Okay, well, to attack the DNC,
to damage, sure.
Yes, to damage the DNC. Let's go through all of this, okay? Who, at the end of the day, he's for unions. He is for
gun control, for sure.
Gun control, for sure, right? It's a very progressive platform, right? Despite all of their complaints about the Democratic Party, how many progressives are there on the Democratic side and how many are there on the Republican side, right? There's zero on the Republican side.
Definitely negative.
Right? Meanwhile,
negative,
we
not
have
even zero.
exactly this negative. Meanwhile, we have like 4 members of the squad. We have Bernie Sanders. Like, we do have some progressives on our side, and the numbers are increasing each time. I don't believe in this, that the tactic has to be burn it all down. It feels very, very similar to like Tea Party, MAGA Party stuff. And I don't want to see Democrats go that way. Like, you do have to make friends and you do have to shake hands. You do. You can't just like throw everyone out.
Yes, but MAGA helped win elections, which is the goal. I'm just going to point that out. So it's not wrong to say, like, they need to try. I think what you're basically saying is you need to win people over. You can't just beat them over the head and expect them to come along with you. You need to win people over. I think the response to that is, but the people also have to be willing to be won over. And the fact that he's vice chair is a sign that they're willing to be won over. I think, like you said, they should just have the election again. If he wins more seats or even the same number of votes or whatever and becomes vice chair again, great. If he doesn't, well, I guess that's a conversation we can have when that time comes and what that actually means for him and the party. But I see this becoming another issue. And so I'm glad we're talking about it, because this is the kind of thing that the DNC struggles with. Like, Republicans probably have these kinds of arguments, but it's always rumors and innuendo, and you never really know what's happening. And they don't usually leak it out into the public to become like, a news story. But because on the left,
why is this in the news?
On the left, we have these moments.
People with big feelings, just people leaking their feelings all over all of us.
Okay. Okay.
No, seriously, I expect that there will be fights, and I expect that there will be, places where you need to draw the line. I just think that this one is actually the wrong one.
Yeah.
I don't see what the problem is in this particular scenario. If you can't deal with the bullshit procedures in the DNC, how are you going to deal with the bullshit procedures when you get to the House?
I think we should wait and see how this goes. And we can talk about this again, right? We'll see how the second round of elections goes, see who's still a vice chair at the end of them. We will talk about this again. We will revisit this topic in the future.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Liberal Banter. We have been your hosts, Liz and Olu. We are away next week for Memorial Day weekend. In the meantime, please do share the word about our podcast. We hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.